Okay, Chevra, so let's get going. Again, my apologies, a little bit of a shorter shear tonight, but okay.
18B2?
Okay, 18B2, correct. We're on 18B2. So if you remember, we'll start with the situation of what Rebbe Zera did. Rebbe Zera, who lived in Bavel, came to Eretz Yisrael, and he ate meat that would not have been acceptable in Bavel. Remember, right? He ate meat that would not have been acceptable in Bavel because it was slaughtered above the Tabaz Gedola. And in Eretz Yisrael, slaughtering above the Tabaz Gedola was considered hagrama, but in Bavel, right? But in Eretz Yisrael, it was not considered. Hagrama. So we'll start right at the top of 18b2. You'll see where the Gemara says we're learning through this case of. Remember, we were discussing the case of the bechor that if you have a bechor and the bechor develops a mum, so then that bechor can be relieved of its kedusha because of the mum that develops. So who relieves the bechor of the mum? So the Gemara says, Shlosha matirin es ha-bechor b'mekom she'ein mumcha, right? That three people are able to matir the bechor if there was no mumcha. Generally, a mumcha, you needed a mumcha to do it. Even a single mumcha could do it, but if there wasn't a single mumcha, so then three people who had some experience but were not at all experts, three people they could do this. Okay, asks the Gemara. The Rebbe Zera lay, doesn't Rebbe Zera hold by the principle of nosnin alav chumrei hamakom sheyatza misham v'chumrei hamakom shahalach l'sham? Okay, what is that principle and what is that talking about? So, right.
Extra machmir.
So, well, it's being perpetually machmir. Right, being perpetually machmir. So,
call it not.
So look. Okay, so if you look down at Rashi, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 lines up. Right, Rashi says bitmiya. It's a wonder. Right, this question is being asked. It's a question that Rebbe Zera doesn't hold of this. How could he not hold of it? This concept of nosnin alav chumras hamakom sheyatza, where a person has to observe the chumros of the place from which he came and the chumros of the place to which he goes, that itself is a mishnah, a meforeshes mishnah in Maseches Pesachim. I think that actually it refers here. Basically, what we're talking about is the idea of work on Erev Pesach, right? Are you allowed to work on Erev Pesach or not work on Erev Pesach? What's the halacha? So the halacha is it depends. People have different minhagim. There were some communities that had the minhagim to work on Erev Pesach, and some communities that had the minhagim not to work on Erev Pesach. The question is, how do you treat Erev Pesach? Do you treat Erev Pesach as a chag? Sort of like a quasi kind of chag in which you don't work, like Purim is a quasi kind of chag that you don't work? Or do you not treat it as anything special until Chatzos, and you're allowed to work that day? So the Mishnah in Maseches Pesachim talks about what happens if a person leaves a place where the minhag is to work on Erev Pesach and goes to a place where the minhag is not to work on Erev Pesach, or fakert. He goes from a place where the minhag is not to work on Erev Pesach, and he goes to a place where the minhag is to work on Erev. What does he follow? Does he follow the minhag from which he came, or does he follow the minhag of the place to which he is going? I mentioned last week that
last week you said strict, right? Strict on both.
well, that's what the Gemara in Pesachim concludes. He follows the chumrah of the place where he left and the chumrah of the place where he is. So I mentioned last week that this would get us into a little bit of a discussion about saying v'sein tal umatar livracha. So if I remember, Natan, you were going to ask your friend. Did you ask him?
I did.
And what did he say to you?
He said,
Because this, just as a background, we in America and outside of not just America, but anywhere outside of Eretz Yisrael, continue to say v'sein bracha in our Shmona Esrei, our weekday Shmona Esrei. In the bracha of Shanim, we say v'sein bracha. And in Eretz Yisrael, and we switch December 4th/5th, depending upon the year.
Well, can I just ask, why is it, I never understood that. Why is it December 4th/5th? Is that an equinox or
Okay,
something?
so it has, yes, it has to do with what we call the tekufos. And maybe we'll start next week's year with a little bit of a,
Sorry.
a little bit, it has to do, not only does it have to do with the tekufos, but it has to do with the Gregorian calendar and the changing calendar. We lost a bunch of days, and it's a nice sugya, so maybe we'll start next week with that.
Okay.
But in Eretz Yisrael, starting from 7 Mar Cheshvan, they are already saying v'sein talu matar livracha. So what happens if somebody from here goes to Eretz Yisrael, or somebody from Eretz Yisrael goes to here? So what did he say?
he said he did V'tein Bracha with the mention of V'tein Talumatar in Shema Kolenu.
He did v'sein bracha in his Shmona Esrei.
Right, in Birkat HaShanim.
Okay. Did he ask anybody, or this is?
I didn't
this is-
ask it.
Okay.
And then he said in Shema Kolenu he would do V'tein Talumatar to be...
Okay, so there are different opinions as to what one does under these circumstances. It seems that the predominant opinion is that one follows the minhag hamakom, where one finds himself. So even though we live in Chutz La'aretz and we are not normally saying v'sein tal umatar livracha, we're just saying v'sein bracha. We switch as it gets into December. So nevertheless, a person from Golus who visits Eretz Yisrael during this time of the year would be saying v'sein tal umatar livracha in the Shmona Esrei. Okay, so that's why I was interesting question of where this idea comes from. If you say v'sein bracha, you don't have to repeat the Shmona Esrei, right? But that's the idea which is here. Okay. So, when you go from one place to another place, you have to observe the chumros of the place where you left and the chumros of the place to which you are going. So now, Rabbi Zera, who lived in Bavel, while he lived in Bavel, was following a particular chumrah. What was that chumrah? That chumrah was above the Tabas Hagdola is called Hagrama. Now, when he comes to Eretz Yisrael, and that there is no such chumrah, right? That there's no chumrah, they don't hold by that. So what should he be following? Thank you very much. Thank you. Is this the vodka drink?
No, pure water.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam she'akol niyeh b'baro.
Wait, the wrong one.
The same bracha.
Same bracha, that's all right.
Right.
I'm afraid
Okay.
we change it.
Okay, so shouldn't Rebbe Zera, even in Eretz Yisrael, be observing the chumrah of the place from which he came? Nearly meaning being observing the chumrah of Bavel and not eating meat which was shechted above the Tabas HaGadola. That's what our Gemara is asking. V'leis doesn't Rebbe Zera hold by this principle? So Amar Abaye. So Abaye now gives the answer, and Abaye says, "Hani mili mi bavel lebavel." This only works. This principle where you take whichever opinion is more chamor, either the place where you came from or the place where you're going to. You take the more machmir position. So this only applies if you go from place to place in Bavel. Go from one place in Bavel to another place in Bavel. Or you go me'eretz Yisrael le'eretz Yisrael. Or you go from place to place in Eretz Yisrael. Inami, or perhaps it just means me'eretz Yisrael le'Bavel. Aval mi Bavel le'eretz Yisrael. When you go from Bavel to Eretz Yisrael, kevan sha'anan kaifinan luhu, since we are kafuf, we are subordinate to Eretz Yisrael. Avdinan kvasaihu. We follow the minhag of Eretz Yisrael. Right? We follow the minhag of Eretz Yisrael. All right. So an interesting Gemara. Okay.
It didn't happen, but it didn't happen.
Well, it's still happening.
What?
It's only Reishi Tzmichad Gulateinu.
So the interesting question is, what does it mean that we are kaifinan, that we are subordinate to Eretz Yisrael? So if you look at Rashi, Rashi is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 lines up from the bottom. Rashi says, Ki azlinan gabayhu, right? We go by them, by Eretz Yisrael, the minhag of Eretz Yisrael, when we're in Eretz Yisrael. V'ein anu tzrichim lachlok kavod limekomenu, right? And we have no obligation to give kavod to the place from which we come. So what is that saying? Right? That is saying that when you go to, in other words, why do I observe the, right? Why do I observe the strict minhag, either if it's from the place from where I come, or the place to which I'm going? Why do I observe the strict minhag? If it's the place where I'm going, I observe the strict minhag because minhag amakum. I have to follow the minhag of the place where I am. If it is, if the place where I'm going is lenient in this area and the place where I'm coming from is stringent, so I'm also supposed to be stringent according to the Mishnah in Maseches Pesachim. Why? Because that gives kavod to the place where I came from. In other words, I'm not going to forget about that place. Remember, a person can always be more machmir on himself, right? In other words, we're not saying here, right? You can always say your knife is not sharp enough. Not done.
We know.
Right?
We know
right?
that.
In other words, right? You can always do that, right? There's no problem, no halachic problem in being more machmir on yourself, right? You could do that. So in other words, what are we saying? We're saying that this meat, right? That when it comes to eating meat, which back in Bavel is hagrama, right? And here it's not hagrama. So we should say he should be machmir on himself. Just because they permit the meat here doesn't mean that he has to permit it for himself. He should be stringent upon himself out of respect for the place from which he came. What's the answer? The answer is that doesn't apply if you're coming from Chutz La'aretz to Eretz Yisrael. Since we are subordinate to Eretz Yisrael, what does it mean we are subordinate to Eretz Yisrael?
The courts probably.
Holiness?
Well,
The rules of Eretz Yisrael override the rules of
Rav Kook would say holiness, right? Rav Kook would say that the Galus exists only because of the Kedusha of Eretz Yisrael, right? But the traditional explanation of Kaifinan, that we are subordinate, has to do with Beis Din. With Beis Din, Jonathan's right, with the court system.
I remember that from
Right,
Bad Boys.
right, with the court system, meaning that we don't have the right, right, we don't have the right to be judges outside. In other words, you can only have judges in Eretz Yisrael, right? If you want to be a judge outside of Eretz Yisrael, you have to have permission from Eretz Yisrael to be a judge outside of Eretz Yisrael. So that's what it means by kaifinan. We're subordinate to them. The authority, the supreme authority rests among the chachamim of Eretz Yisrael. So that's what it means. So basically, what position was Rabbi Zera taking? Rabbi Zera was taking the position of, I'm here in Eretz Yisrael, eating from meat that was shechted above the tabas gedola. In Bavel they wouldn't do it, but I have no obligation, since I'm living now in Eretz Yisrael, I have no obligation to give kavod to the place from where I came, and therefore I'm going to eat the meat from Eretz Yisrael. That was Rabbi Zera's position. Okay. Okay.
Does it still exist?
Does what still exist?
If you go from one place to Eretz Yisrael,
Well, that's the example of V'sein bracha or V'sein talum matar livracha. In other words, we're all saying now V'sein bracha. Okay? But in Eretz Yisrael, they're saying V'sein talum matar livracha. So what should I do, right? What should I do? What should I say? So it seems that based on what we've just learned here, we would be saying V'sein talum matar livracha in Eretz Yisrael. and not giving kavod to Great Neck, right, to the place where we came from, because it's Eretz Yisrael. We're subordinate to Eretz Yisrael. A second,
But that's not really a stringency situation.
correct. That's
So
correct.
I would say, like, what about gelatin? Or what about kashmir?
Muscovy duck.
Or muscovy. Well, muscovy duck, I think we learned already. Was okay,
Even
no?
This is maybe part of the reason.
or get a
Oh,
nusher.
that's thank you.
We need a nusher, right?
I went over there.
That's right. That's right.
So
That's right. Sorry, that's probably why it's in here.
last summer when I was in Israel, I went somewhere where they served filet mignon, and over there they had a note. They said for those who have a custom not to eat it, it's
Well,
not
they remove
allowed.
with the laser there, that's the difference. They don't
But
do it
I'm
with the traditional.
I'm guessing
They
why
remove
they
it.
put that little note over there if you follow.
Well, our minhag. I mean, what's right? We have a minhag not to eat from the hindquarters here. Why do we have that minhag?
Because we're not mumchim,
To remove the.
we're not bakim in removal, and it's too expensive for removal.
That's the
and
real
you-
reason. I mean, the real reason it's too
So the
expensive.
reason is,
It's
we
just
have
too
not
expensive.
perfected the way to
And you
remove
can
it.
sell the hindquarters to
Right.
Goyim,
That's the real
right?
reason.
The
But
truth
in,
is,
but in Eretz
right,
Yisrael, you can't really do
Right.
that.
So the truth is, if it was a question simply of being a mumcha, so
we could find them.
people in Eretz Yisrael who are mumchas, we could
They would
get.
teach us.
They would come to teach us. We would develop our own, our own ability to be a mumcha here, right here in America, right? Right? You would figure that out. It's like learning how to traber, right? It's a little bit more complicated, but I mean, it's a lot more complicated than simple trabering. But okay, you could learn it. The real reason is it's not kedai for us to learn it, right? Why is it not kedai for us to learn it? Because it's much more financially expedient to simply sell the entire hindquarters to the goyim, right? Simply sell the entire hindquarters to the goyim. They don't care, and there's no prohibition for them, right? So it's not like we're not even over on leaf neiva or anything like that. We're just selling it to the goyim, and that's it. So, but in Eretz Yisrael, where that's not the case, so there they eat the filet mignon. They take out the gida nasha, right? It's not like they eat the filet mignon with the gida. Our minhag is we eat filet mignon with the gida. No, everybody eats filet mignon without the gida nasha. But the whole question is, there are people who are uncomfortable eating filet mignon. In other words, if I developed already a minhag not to eat it, so maybe I shouldn't be eating it. That's why they have that sign that says that. Okay. Back to our Gemara. Okay, good. So what does the Gemara say? So the Gemara says as follows: Rav Ashi Amar. Rav Ashi says, "Afilu tema mi Bavel leEretz Yisrael." You know what? You're right. Einachinami. From one place in Bavel to another place in Bavel, you follow the chumrah of both places. From one place in Eretz Yisrael to another place in Eretz Yisrael, you follow the chumrah of both places. From Eretz Yisrael to Bavel, you follow the chumrah of both places. But we said from Bavel to Eretz Yisrael, you don't have to follow the chumrah of both places, because everybody is subordinate to Eretz Yisrael.
If that's the case, then how come when Americans go to Israel, they still celebrate 2 days of the holidays, like Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur? Not Yom Kippur, Rosh Hashanah and Passover and all that, they do it. But if you're in Israel, you should follow the rules of Israel.
Well, in Israel, they also observe Rosh Hashanah for 2 days.
Passover.
Passover is a good question. Shavuos, Sukkos, those are all good questions, right? Why do we observe 2 days under those circumstances? Like, maybe we should just be observing 1 day. And there are plenty of people, by the way, who observe 1 day, right? The question of observing 2 days or 1 day is a big shear that most people do not want to hear. Right? They don't want to hear what that shear says, right? They don't want to hear what that shear says. So, but there are people who pass. I mean, you'll find poskim to take whichever position you want in this matter. If you want to keep 2 days, you'll find poskim say 2
I'm just saying,
days.
if it's going in the line that we're subordinate or we're below Eretz Yisrael, whatever Eretz Yisrael does, that's what we should do.
All right, but
When we're
remember,
there.
okay, but remember, let's say you observe 2 days. You're just being stringent on yourself, right? You're being stringent on yourself. You're saying, I could technically do malacha, but I'm not going to do it because I'm not sure, blah, 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 right? And I'm being machmir on myself. So you're saying, well, why are you being machmir on yourself? You're in Eretz Yisrael. You shouldn't be machmir on yourself if Eretz Yisrael is mekil in that. so the bigger discussion here is 1 day and 2 days a function of kula and chumrah, or is 1 day and 2 days a function of minhag? And minhag is different than chumrah and kula. Meaning, what is chumrah and kula? Chumrah and kula means I have dalad amos of halacha. I have the most lenient opinion here, and I have the most stringent opinion here. Kula means I go right about here. Chumrah means I go over here, right? Minhag is not by definition chumrah or kula,
It's tradition.
right? You can have some minhagim are minhagim of kulos, some minhagim are minhagim of chumros. Some minhagim are neither chumrah nor kula.
There's a funny Yeki
Right.
joke. I forgot who Jason tells it. There's some sort of joke about how the Germans weren't following halacha. They didn't know how to get them to follow. They said, you know what? If we make it minhag, they'll start following because they followed their minhag more than.
Okay, good. We'll have to hear from Jason.
Yeah,
Okay.
they were Jason.
Okay, so the Gemara now says, Rav Ashi Amar afilu tema mibavel Eretz Yisrael. So Rav Ashi says, I'll raise you, right? I'll see you and raise you. Is that the correct terminology? Right, I'll see you and raise you, says Rav Ashi, because I can even throw in Hani Mili me afilu tema mibavel Eretz Yisrael. What am I talking about? Hani Mili heicha deda'ato lachsor. Right? That even if you're coming from Bavel to Eretz Yisrael, I can still, says Rav Ashi, paint a picture of why you should observe the chumros of the place from which you come. And what is that? Da'ato lachsor. Because your intention is not to stay in Eretz Yisrael. What's your intention? Your intention is to go back. Right? So since your intention is to go back, according to Rav Ashi, if that's your intention, then you should observe the chumras of both places. When do you not observe the chumrah of the place from which you came? When you have an intention to stay in Eretz Yisrael, when you have no intention to go back. And if you have no intention to go back, so then you observe then you are free to ignore the stringencies of the place from which you come. That, Jonathan, is the big part of the debate around 1 day or 2 days. Meaning, I come to Eretz Yisrael. If I come to Eretz Yisrael for Yantiv, or I come to Eretz Yisrael for a year, what's my das? My das is to go back to America ultimately. So if my das is to go back to America, and in America we always observe 2 days, so then what should I be observing in Eretz Yisrael? 2 days. What did those poskim who say 1 day, you can observe 1 day in Eretz Yisrael, what do they rely on? Your das is wrong. Right? That's basically what they're saying. You're saying you have das to go back to Eretz.
You can,
Yeah,
right?
it's
Right, you have das to leave Eretz Yisrael and go back to America. That's a wrong das, right? You're not allowed to do that. You're not allowed to leave Eretz Yisrael and go back to America.
Anytime I want to leave Eretz Yisrael, I just really want to leave.
So that's Rav Ashi's piece here.
So
Rav
you
Ashi,
don't buy a round trip ticket.
I'm going to teach this Gemara to Ariel. You're never getting out next time.
Oh, I know.
right? So this is Rav Ashi's
Every
opinion.
year
Rav
is
Ashi Amar afilu tema mibavel Eretz Yisrael hani mili heichid dida'ato lachsor. Right, when his das is lachsor to go back, so then he has to observe the chumras of Bavel, even if he comes to Eretz Yisrael. But Rabbi Zeira ain't da'aso lachsor. What was the story with Rabbi Zeira? Rabbi Zeira left Bavel, he came to Eretz Yisrael, he was making Aliyah. Rabbi Zeira had no intention of going back. So if Rabbi Zeira had no intention of going back, then there was no reason for Rabbi Zeira to observe the chumras of Bavel. Because the only time you would observe the chumras of Bavel if you come to Eretz Yisrael is if you have das to go back. Rabbi Zeira wasn't going back, so no reason for him to do that. Okay.
But how does that work if someone comes from Eretz Yisrael and comes here? Big Rav, he's only going to be here a week, and it happens to be Sukkot. Does he have to still? He still has to follow the 2 days.
Forget a big Rav who's going to be here for a week, right? So we have living with us 2 Israeli shlichot, 2 girls from Bnei Akiva, Israelis. Can't get more Israeli than these girls. Can't get more Israeli than Bnei Akiva. So we said to them, what are you guys doing for the second day Yontiv? So it's interesting, they got 2 different piskei halacha. Right?
Only 2 is not bad.
Right? They had 2 different piskei halacha. One of them, because their parents both asked their community rabbis in Eretz Yisrael. One of them said you have to, right? One of them said you observe the day like it is Yom Tov. you avoid doing malacha, you observe the day like it is Yom Tov. All right? You don't daven a Yom Tov davening. You're not obligated to make Kiddush, but you observe
Is that a Maris Ayin? Is that
you
a
observe
Maris Ayin?
you observe the day like it's Yom Tov. Correct. The other one said you observe the day like it's Yom Tov in public,
That's right.
but in your room, you could watch TV, you could be on the computer, you could be on the cell phone, right? You know, it's
Just not in public, so that.
Yeah, I heard someone told me that their thing was they observe the day entirely, but in private they specifically make sure they turn on a light switch, and that was it.
Well, I think
in
that-
public they observe
I was
the second
actually
day.
surprised at the more stringent opinion, because the opinion that I've always been exposed to of Israelis who come here is that bifarhesia, publicly, they are not supposed to do malacha, but bitzina, privately, they can do whatever malacha they want. The question is, can you have them do malacha for you? That's an interesting question. Like, could you say to the Israeli young woman, by the way, when you're up in your room, could you check the sports score and let me know what the story, you know, right?
My guess is the same
Yeah.
would say, I would say no.
Probably not, right?
But
if you make Shabbos early, and I don't make Shabbos early,
so that's a very right, so that's a very
nice.
interesting
Natan.
right. So that's a very interesting question. In other words, Natan is really did not mean to ask the question about me and him. Natan meant to ask the question about him and Dina. In other words,
well,
let's
Dina
right?
makes Shabbos when I make Shabbos.
Okay, right. But so let's say Dina didn't make Shabbos when you made Shabbos. Okay, let's say you made Shabbos early. You took the kids to shul, and Dina still needed another hour to get ready for Shabbos. Is that okay? We don't discuss
don't
that.
do that.
Right, right. But technically speaking, that would be okay. In other words, in the summer, Dina, in the summer, according to very valid opinions, one's wife is not bound by when her husband brings in Shabbos. Meaning, if he brings in Shabbos earlier, that doesn't mean that it's Shabbos for her. However, if they live as long as there are other places in the community that are bringing in Shabbos the time that she wants to bring in Shabbos. But if there is only one time in the community that everybody buys, right? Everybody brings in Shabbos early. So then she's stuck, then she has to bring Shabbos in early also. But if there are other
Is
places,
that minhag again, or
what?
is that minhag, or is there another reason for that? Like, what would cause that? Just less options?
We would say that an individual is meshubad to the community. Meaning, if you live in a community where everybody in the community, every shul in the community davens mincha Friday afternoon early in the summer, then you are bound by that.
We had this in the old city. The old city starts, I didn't understand it, but now I do. The old city starts like 20 minutes earlier than.
Candlelighting is 40 minutes. 40 minutes before
Right. So,
Shkia.
so we were like, were you with me? I was with
with
Hillel.
you.
I was
You
with
weren't
Hillel.
with me.
I wasn't ready, and Hillel was like, "You gotta realize Shabbos is coming." And I'm like, "What are you talking about? Jerusalem?" He's like, "No. The old city was different. They start early. They start very early, ridiculously early." And then,
So that is the minhag hamakom, and minhag hamakom is very strong. It's very strong. Okay.
but I didn't understand that every shul in the old city had to do that. Like, I just thought that was like him being crazy.
Well, he is crazy.
Well, did you find out that every shul does it?
Every shul does do
Right,
it. Yeah.
right,
Every
right,
single shul. The Sfardim, the Ashkenazim.
So every shul in the old city starts.
starts
40
very, very early. It's
minutes to an
really
hour
early. Like,
earlier.
it wasn't, the sun was like shining in the, I was like, are you serious?
I just, right, I just got up. Okay.
I don't know. Really, it was. I just got up.
Okay, so the Gemara goes weiter. Let's go, right? We say, Hani mili heiche de da'ato lachsor, and Rabbi Zera ein da'aso lachsor have, right? He had no da'as to go back. So Amar le Abaye le Rav Yosef. Abaye says to Rav Yosef, Vaha ha Rabbanan da'asu mimechuza. Now we're getting another story. And what is that? The story of the Rabbanan who came from Mechuza. They came from the place of Mechuza. Where is Mechuza? Anybody know? In Eretz Yisrael or outside of Eretz Yisrael? Mechuza.
Well, according to Note 20, it's a town in Babylonia.
Correct.
If you gave me enough time, I found it.
Okay, good. Shkayach Natan. Thank you for rising to the challenge. Okay, so they came from Mechuzah. So the group of rabbis, V'harabbanan, the Asumi Mechuzah. They came from Mechuzah. Amrei, right? They said LeRebbi Zera, Mishmei Derav Nachman, Mugremes Kshera. Right? What was their position that they took? Mugremes Kshera. So what does it mean, Mugremes Kshera? So the same thing that we said before by Rabbi Zera,
Yeah,
what?
We talked about this earlier.
Right? That if even though it is Hagrama for Bnei Bavel, it is Kshera here in Eretz Yisrael. And these rabbis who came from Mechuzah to Eretz Yisrael, so Rabbi Zera told them, Mugremes Kshera. So Amar Lei, so they said, I think this is they are saying to him now, Nahara Upashte. What is Nahara Upashte mean? So if you look, let's see, look at Rashi, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 lines up. First word on the line is the second Nahara Upashte. So it's Kol Nahar, right? Nahar is river, right? Kol Nahar. Mispashet b'makom shehu ragil sham. What's the nature of a river?
To go back to what it's used to.
The river flows in its normal course. In other words, the river doesn't change its normal course. The river flows its normal course, right? Mispashet means it spreads out. B'makom shehu ragil sham. Kolomar, kol makom holech achar minhago. Every place should follow its own particular minhag. Every place has a minhag hamakom, and every place should follow its own particular minhag. Isduchta beBavel, there is a place in Bavel, denahigu k'Rav Shmuel, that observes like Rav Shmuel. V'isduchta, and there is a place delo nehiga kavasehu, that they don't follow the opinion of Rav and Shmuel. So what did this group of rabbis say? Nahara upashte. Nahara upashte is an expression which means everybody should follow the minhag hamakom, the minhag of his particular place. And here you have an interesting halacha l'maisa. If I'm an Ashkenazi who goes to a Sephardi shul, I go to daven by Navid or by Simon for Shabbos morning, and they comes to kedusha. What kedusha am I supposed to say? My kedusha or their kedusha?
Are they different? I didn't even know that.
I'm supposed to say their kedusha.
Really?
I'm supposed to say my Shmona Esrei because that's private, but in public, I'm supposed to say my kedusha.
You should give this drush in our shul.
That's the halacha, right? What's interesting is that we have Sephardim who don't think that right that they don't think right they don't think that halacha applies to them, right? In other words, there are it seems that Ashkenazim are more willing to be mevatel, right, to follow the minhag of Sephardim, right? Because we have Sephardic people who come to Great Neck Synagogue, and when I say to them the minhag by Kaddish, is to say the Ashkenazi Kaddish, they shake their head, and then they say the Sephardi Kaddish. So it's but that's what if I go there, I don't say Berichu, I say Amen, right? And if I go there and I'm davening, if I'm davening for the Amud, I have to daven Nusach Sfard, right? Or Nusach Edut HaMizrach. And I have to say Vayatzmach Porkane V'Karav Meshiche. If I'm in a Nusach Sfard show, I have to say that, right? I have to, if anything public, I have to say Kimin Hagamakom.
What does a Kohen do? If a Kohen goes, does he go in Duchen?
Yeah, 100%. Kohen goes, he goes in Duchitz. Okay, we'll stop here for today. Sorry for the late start, but thank you for being understanding.
Thank you very much.
Okay. John, thank you for your help in getting that security.